In Panama City, trade unions workers marched on Thursday afternoon to the National Assembly to urge lawmakers to repeal the proposed reform to the Social Security Fund. Thousands of protesters gathered outside South Korea's National Assembly calling for President Yoon Suk-yeol to resign on the eve of a landmark vote to impeach him over his decision to declare martial law. The World Bank has announced that it has raised close to $24 billion to provide loans and grants for some of the world's poorest nations, which it can leverage to generate a record $100 billion in total spending powers. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll be with the news. Stay with us. In Panama City, trade union workers marched on Thursday afternoon to the National Assembly to urge lawmakers to repeal the proposed reform to the Social Security Fund. Hundreds of protesters marched from the Parque Porras to the National Assembly to oppose both the privatization of pension funds and the potential rise in the retirement age. As a result, near businesses, public transports and services faced some disruptions while the police kept guard along the marchers. However, report showcases a peaceful rally in which workers stood for their labor rights. Let's listen to the members of the CNUSI union about the matter.
We are demanding that lawmakers from the Legislative Assembly reject the draft Bill 163, as the government is willing to lower pensions. And we cannot allow so. Thus, our current proposal. What we are proposing is a return to the solidarity system. This means we do not accept miserable pensions, pensions that will harm the interests of workers and the Panamanian people.
Bolivia enters the iron and steel era with over 94% progress in the construction of the Mutun steel plant in Santa Cruz. According to the project, the plant is expected to produce 3,500 tons in January 2025 and an average of 200,000 tons a year for the domestic market. With these figures, the nation will be able to sustain at least 50% of its steel imports. The plan is also expected to have an important social impact on the region, as it's estimated to generate 700 direct and close to 2,000 indirect jobs. The Paraguayan government continues pursuing its aggressive policy towards China, charging the Chinese executive of cyber espionage and expelling a Chinese diplomat from its national territory. Paraguay recognized Taiwan as an independent state, violating one China's principles. Subsequently, the Paraguayan executive does not hold diplomatic relations with China. In this context, the U.S. Embassy in Paraguay and the Ministry of Information and Communication Technologies of that nation accused China of launching cyber espionage networks to allegedly infiltrate Paraguayan government systems. Moreover, the authorities suspended a visa to a Chinese diplomat, forcing him to depart the country in less than 24 hours. In response, the spokespersons of the Chinese Foreign Ministry issued some statements.
The allegations and claims made by the corresponding departments of the Paraguayan side against the relevant members of the Chinese delegation are completely unreasonable and groundless, and they seriously violate international practices. China firmly opposes it.
Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez met in Beijing with the President of China National Petroleum Corporation during the second day of her official visit to the Asian nation. During the meeting, both parties follow up on the joint energy cooperation as well as the strengthening of strategic alliances between Caracas and Beijing. They also highlight the bilateral exchange, which has increased by 55% in the last 10 months, exceeding last year's figures. Rodriguez and the Chinese entrepreneur also reviewed a long-standing comprehensive chain of cooperation in the energy industry, which encompasses production investments such as technology and engineering. Previously, the high Venezuelan official visited the Beijing Communist Museum, where she had a possibility to appreciate the history and struggle of the Chinese people along the 20th century through a state-of-the-art technology exhibition. The museum includes more than 2,000 images and around 4,000 relics that shows the transformation of China in the last 100 years. On behalf of the Venezuelan people and its president, Rodriguez praised the role of the Chinese Communist Party as a benchmark of socialism and in defense of freedom and sovereignty of the peoples of the world. Let's take a very short break, but remember you can join us on our TikTok account at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. Thousands of protesters gather outside South Korea's National Assembly, calling for President Yoon Suk-yeol to resign on the eve of a landmark vote to impeach him over his decisions to declare martial law. At least 15,000 anti-Yoon protesters rally in Seoul's Yeouido district, holding candles and signs that read Yoon Suk-yeol should resign for crimes of insurrection, while calling for his arrest. In this context, police expect 200,000 people to attend anti-Yoon's demonstrations on Saturday ahead of the impeachment vote, which needs a two-thirds majority. A fresh opinion polls released Friday put back in for a 63-year-old president who has lurched from crisis to crisis since taking office in 2022 at a record low of 13%. Romanian Constitutional Court annulled the first round of the presidential elections, with the government now due to the set of the day for a new vote. The court's decision comes after the disclassified intelligence documents suggest that the first round's winner, Călin Georgescu, benefited from a mass influence operation from abroad that interferes with the elections results. However, some international analysts affirm that the main reason for the annulment was that the winning candidate did not respond to NATO's interests. Hours after the court's decision, Georgescu told a local TV channel that the country's democracy was under attack, as described the court verdict as a formalized coup d'etat. Ghanaians will cast their votes on Saturday's general elections as the West African country faces its worst economic situation in decades. Over 18.7 million eligible voters are expected to go to the polls to choose from 13 presidential candidates and 276 legislators. Incumbent President Mr. Mahamudu Bawumia of the Patriotic Party is facing former President John Dramani Mahama, who is running for the opposition National Democratic Congress. To win the presidency, a candidate must secure more than 50% of the total votes. Otherwise, a runoff election will be held for the two highest placing candidates. According to the opinion polls, Mahama is expected to emerge as an elections winner.
Let me say, JM, who is John Dramani Mahama, said when he comes to power, everything is going to be better. So I'm pleading with Ghanaians, please vote for John Dramani Mahama to reset Ghana and then for a better change.
Bawumia coming into the game is a game changer. He's a problem solver. He has brought good ideas that impact well on the livelihood of every Ghanaian.
Moving on, dozens of citizens were killed on Friday morning as a result of the Israeli occupation forces shelling off a residential area in the Beit Laia city near the Kamal Aran hospital in northern Gaza. A large number of people are still missing under the rubble of houses in Beit Laia as the World Health Organization slammed the attack. Tel Aviv also bombed a school for displaced people in the town of Jabalia. 2 citizens were killed as a result of the shelling by the occupation forces on a Rafi school, which shelters displaced people in the Jabalia city, and 3 citizens were killed as a result of an airstrike in the Kibbutz al-Aras north of Rafah city. Likewise, there are dead and wounded bodies on the streets, and no one can reach them, preventing ambulances and medical teams from approaching the site. The Foreign Minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi, will join a meeting in Baghdad with his counterpart from Syria and Iraq to address the terrorist offensive on Syria. In this regard, the Iranian ambassador in Iraq underscored that the encounter seeks higher levels of coordination and cooperation among the 3 countries regarding the scope of the crisis in a Middle Eastern country. A few days after the resurgence of terrorist groups in Idlib and Aleppo, the Iranian minister is making a general tour, which first stopover was Damascus, where he met with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, pledged full support to Syria to fight off terrorism. Likewise, the foreign minister warned the terrorist group's overnight offensive on northwest Syria could pose a more serious security threat to neighboring countries. And Iran announced on Friday that it has successfully launched a satellite carrying a rocket into space in tensions with the West. After a thread of unsuccessful tries, the Persian nation has confirmed that this time the launch went as planned. On board the rocket were 2 research systems which could enable Tehran to geosynchronize the orbit of its satellites. The West has accused Iran's space program of being a means to develop ballistic missiles. On the other hand, the UN has insisted that Iran's satellite launches violates a UN Security Council resolution urging it to not carry out any activity involving missiles capable of carrying nuclear warheads. However, Tehran has always maintained that its nuclear and space programs are entirely aimed at peaceful purposes. Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to watch our interviews, sub-stories, special broadcasts, and more. Subscribe and active the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. From financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. The World Bank has announced that it has raised close to $24 billion to provide loans and grants for some of the world's poorest nations, which it can leverage to generate around $100 billion in total spending power. Donor countries pledged $23.7 billion to replenish the bank's conceptual lending arm, known as the International Development Association (IDA), as an increase from the approximately $23.5 billion pledged during the last round of fundraising 3 years ago. World Bank President Banga said in a statement that this fund will be deployed to support the 78 countries that need it most. He added that it will help provide resources to invest in health, education, infrastructure, and climate resilience, as well as help stabilize economies and create jobs. In this context, Senior Managing Director of the World Bank, Axel van Troostenborg, thanked all donors for their unwavering commitments to helping countries in need at the IDA 21 replacements meeting in Seoul, South Korea.
The months of negotiations, partnerships, support from the borrowers, and unwavering commitment from our donors, we're proud to announce that the 21st replenishment of IDA has raised almost $24 billion, or $23.7 billion to be more precise, in donor contributions. We enormously appreciate these donor contributions against a big backdrop of fiscal challenges and depreciations. A huge thank you.
The World Bank Senior Managing Director also stated that these funds investments are about touching lives and creating better futures.
We acknowledge the efforts of individual donors to mobilize scarce fiscal resources for IDA and their continued commitment to support the countries who need it most. And thanks to the IDA unique leveraging model, this 23.7 billion will generate a total of 100 billion in financing, the largest replenishment in IDA history. What does this mean? The 100 billion allows us to invest in health, education, infrastructure, and climate resilience. It will help stabilize economies, create jobs, and build the foundation for a better future. And will support the 78 countries that need it most, giving them the tools to navigate an uncertain world and unlock their full potential. These investments are about touching lives and creating better futures.
The International Development Association is the World Bank's funds for 78 low-income countries, by far their largest source of multilateral development finance. It provides concessional financing for projects that boost economic growth, build resilience, and improve people's lives across these countries, with more than two-thirds of the financing going to lower-income countries in Africa. Since 1960, IDA has provided $533 billion to 115 countries. The 78 countries currently include 4 in Sub-Saharan Africa, 14 in East Asia and Pacific, 6 in South Asia, 4 in Europe and Central Asia, 8 in Latin America and Caribbean, and 3 in Middle East and North Africa. Hundreds of people demonstrated in Chad on Friday to demand the withdrawal of the French troops from the country a week after the Central African country and a military agreement with its former colonizer. In the Central N'Djamena, hundreds of people gathered in front of the French embassy, some chantings and other carrying banners rejecting the presence of French troops in the nation. The protests erupted from the statement issued by the Chadian government last week, in which it decided to end a defense cooperation agreement with France in order to redefine its strategic partnership. However, France has maintained about 1,000 troops in Chad, and the statement did not specify when they will leave. In this regard, protests are expected to continue until the French government takes action on the matter. The International American Humanitarian Organization Doctors Without Borders has warned that a cholera outbreak in South Sudan is rapidly escalating more than a month after the first suspected case was detected. Doctors Without Borders said on Friday that a total of 737 cholera cases were reported in Malakal, the capital of the South Sudan's upper Nile state. The organization announced that its teams had set up a 100-bed cholera treatment center near Malakal Town Hospital, but significant gaps remains, particularly in water and sanitization. As of December 3rd, South Sudan had reported 1,526 suspect and confirmed cholera cases. Cholera is an acute form of diarrhea that is treatable with antibiotics and hydration, but can kill within hours if left untreated. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, health officials have raised alarms over an unidentified flu-like illness that has killed at least 71 people in the southern Baku province. The illness has affected approximately 380 people, nearly half of whom are children under the age of 5. Symptoms report include fever, headache, cough, and anemia. And this sends Congolese Minister of Public Health, Roger Kamba, emphasized that it is still too early to determine the cause of transmission method of the disease.
There were around 380 cases, almost half of which were children under the age of 5, according to the minister. We are really on maximum alert. We need to confirm through the diagnostics the suspicions around whether it is a respiratory infection. We must note also that a large typhoid epidemic 2 years ago, and that the malnutrition rates in the health zone are at around 40%. These are vulnerable factors.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials from Facebook, on X, and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English and from the south of Marrero, thank you for watching.